The alien princess reunited with an old friend at the wedding, and she was overjoyed. Princess Zerdiel stepped through the grand entrance of Harmony Prime Station, her crystalline skin catching the soft lights that danced across the vast ceremonial hall. Her blue robes flowed behind her like liquid starlight, each thread woven with precious metals that sang quietly with each movement. As the heir to the Crystalline Dominion, one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, she carried herself with the grace expected of royalty. But inside, her heart raced with nervousness. Today was not just any wedding. Today, the star nations that had fought each other for over a century would finally unite in peace. The bride was Princess Lina of the Solar Federation, and the groom was Prince Corvex of the Void Empire. Their marriage would end the longest war in galactic history. Every major species in the known universe had sent their most important representatives. To witness this moment, Zerdiel looked around the massive hall, which could hold 10,000 beings comfortably. The ceiling stretched so high that it seemed to touch the stars themselves. Floating gardens hung in the air, filled with flowers from 100 different worlds. The sweet smell of Andromedan roses mixed with the sharp scent of Martian fire lilies. Soft music played from invisible speakers, a blend of melodies from dozens of cultures. "Your Highness," whispered Ambassador Velter, her chief advisor, as he walked beside her. His green skin was covered in the traditional diplomatic markings of their people. "Remember, you must speak with the Centauri delegation about the trade agreements. Also, the Andromedan Council wishes to discuss mining rights in the Outer Rim." Zerdiel nodded, though her attention was elsewhere. She watched as beings from across the galaxy moved through the hall like a living rainbow. There were the tall, bird-like aviarians with their golden feathers that shimmered in the light. The rock-like geologians rolled slowly across the floor, their crystal eyes glowing with ancient wisdom. Floating nearby were the energy beings from the plasma worlds, their forms shifting like controlled lightning. "The ceremony will begin in 1 hour," Velter continued. "Until then, you should mingle with the other guests. Show them the strength and wisdom of our empire." She smiled politely at her advisor. "Of course, I understand my duties." As Zerdiel moved through the crowd, she practiced the skills her tutors had taught her since childhood. She greeted the Aquarian ambassador with the proper water gesture. She bowed at exactly the right angle to the insectoid queen. Each interaction was a careful dance of diplomacy, where one wrong word could create problems between entire star systems. The wedding altar stood at the center of the hall, surrounded by thousands of floating seats arranged in perfect circles. Representatives from the Solar Federation wore bright colors that reminded everyone of their sun-worshipping culture. The Void Empire delegation dressed in deep purples and blacks, showing their connection to the dark matter that powered their ships. Princess Zerdiel called out Ambassador Thorn from the Galactic Council. He was an elderly human with kind eyes and gray hair. "How wonderful to see you here. Your father's support for this union means everything to the peace process, Ambassador Thorn." She replied with a warm smile. "The Crystalline Dominion believes in the power of love to heal old wounds. We are honored to witness this historic moment." As they spoke about trade routes and mutual defense agreements, Zerdiel felt the familiar weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Every word she spoke would be analyzed by dozens of intelligence agencies. Every smile would be measured for its diplomatic value. Sometimes she wondered what it would be like to simply be herself, without the burden of representing an entire empire. The human delegation caught her attention as they moved past. Humans were still relatively new to galactic politics, having joined the community only 50 years ago, but they had quickly proven themselves valuable as mediators and cultural experts. Their ability to understand and connect with different species was remarkable. She was about to turn back to Ambassador Thorn when something made her freeze. Among the humans, she saw a face that sent shock waves through her entire being. A man with dark hair and gentle brown eyes, wearing a simple but elegant blue suit. He was older now, with lines around his eyes and gray in his hair, but she would recognize him anywhere. Marcus Chen. Her breath caught in her throat. 20 years had passed, but she remembered everything about him. The way he hummed softly when he was nervous. How he had shared his last energy bar with her when they were hiding in that asteroid cave. The gentle songs he sang to keep her from crying. During those 3 terrible days when pirates had taken her from her family, Marcus was speaking with other members of the human delegation, his hands moving as he explained something with obvious passion. He looked confident and respected among his peers. She noticed the diplomatic badge on his chest. He had become someone important in the human government. Your Highness? Ambassador Thorne's voice seemed to come from very far away. Are you feeling well? You look pale. Zerdil blinked, realizing she had been staring. Her royal training kicked in, and she quickly composed herself. I am fine. Ambassador, just impressed by the beautiful decorations. But her eyes kept drifting back to Marcus. He had not seen her yet. Part of her wanted to run across the hall and call his name. Another part of her, the princess who had been trained since birth in proper behavior, knew that such an action would cause a diplomatic scandal. Ladies and gentlemen, announced a voice that echoed throughout the hall, please take your seats. The ceremony will begin in 30 minutes. As beings began moving toward their assigned places, Zerdil felt torn between her duty and her heart. She was expected to sit with the other royal representatives in the front section. Marcus would be with the human delegation, far across the hall. She took a deep breath and began walking toward her seat, but her eyes never left the human who had once saved her life and become her dearest friend. After 20 years of wondering what had happened to him, Marcus Chen was here. Just a few hundred meters away, the wedding was about to begin. But for Princess Zerdil, the most important reunion of her life was only just starting. As Princess Zerdil took her seat among the royal delegates, her mind drifted back 20 years to a memory she had never forgotten. She was 8 years old then, traveling with her father on a diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim planets. The royal ship Crystal Star was magnificent, with gleaming halls and rooms filled with beautiful art from across their empire. Young Zerdil had been excited about the trip. It was her first time leaving their home world, and everything seemed like a wonderful adventure. She spent her days exploring the ship, meeting the crew members, and learning about the different worlds they would visit. Her favorite place was the engineering section, where she loved watching the humans work on the ship's systems. The human crew members were still new to working with her people. Most aliens found the crystalline race too formal and cold, but humans seemed to understand that beneath their crystal-like appearance, they had warm hearts. The chief engineer was a kind woman named Captain Rodriguez, and working under her was a young man named Marcus Chen. Marcus was only 19 years old, fresh from Earth's engineering academy. He had joined the crew just 6 months earlier, eager to learn about alien technology. Unlike many adults who spoke to her with stiff royal protocol, Marcus talked to her like she was a real person. He would explain how the engines worked using simple words, and he always smiled when she asked questions. See this panel here, princess? Marcus had said during one of her visits to engineering. This controls how fast we travel through space. It's like a speedometer in a ground car, but much more complicated. Zerdil remembered how his eyes lit up when he talked about his work. He loved solving problems and fixing things that were broken. She had never met anyone who found such joy in helping others. Everything changed on the 3rd day of their journey. The attack came without warning. Space pirates had been tracking their ship for days, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Crystal Star was well defended, but the pirates had new weapons that could disable their shields. Within minutes, enemy ships surrounded them. Zerdil had been in the engineering section when the alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed everywhere, and she could hear explosions echoing through the ship. Captain Rodriguez was shouting orders to her team, trying to keep the engines running while the royal guards fought off the attackers. Princess, Marcus had called out, his face full of worry. You need to get to the safe room. It's not safe here. But before they could move, the pirates broke through the ship's defenses. Armed figures in dark armor stormed into the engineering section. Most of the crew tried to run, but the pirates were faster. Zerdil watched in terror as they captured Captain Rodriguez and several other crew members. One of the pirates spotted her and started moving in her direction. His eyes gleamed with greed as he realized who she was. A crystalline princess. Would be worth a fortune in ransom money. That's when Marcus did something incredibly brave. He stepped between the pirate and Zerdiel, even though he had no weapons and no armor. Run. Princess, he shouted. I'll hold them off. The pirate laughed and pushed Marcus aside easily. But those few seconds gave Zerdiel time to escape into the ship's maintenance tunnels. She could hear Marcus fighting behind her, refusing to tell the pirates which way she had gone even when they threatened him. For hours, she hid in the dark tunnels, scared and alone. She could hear the pirates searching for her, getting closer with each passing minute. Then, just when she thought they would find her, someone crawled into the tunnel from the other direction. It was Marcus. His clothes were torn and he had a cut on his forehead. But he was alive. Princess. He whispered, I know a way off the ship, but we have to be very quiet and very brave. Marcus had memorized every part of the ship during his months working there. He led her through secret passages and emergency shafts that the pirates didn't know about. They reached an escape pod just as the pirates were taking control of the main ship. This pod will take us to the asteroid belt. Marcus explained as he prepared the launch sequence. We'll hide there until help comes. The next 3 days were the longest of young Zerdiel's life. They floated in the small escape pod among the dark rocks of the asteroid field, hoping the pirates wouldn't find them. The pod was cold and cramped, with barely enough food and water for 2 people. But Marcus made those days bearable. When she was scared, he told her stories about Earth and the animals that lived there. When she was hungry, he shared his emergency rations with her, always making sure she ate first when she couldn't sleep because of nightmares. He sang gentle songs from his childhood. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. His voice was soft and comforting in the darkness. How I wonder what you are, up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. He taught her card games using an old deck he kept in his pocket. He showed her how to fix simple electronics using spare parts from the pod. Most importantly, he never let her lose hope that they would be rescued. Your father is probably organizing the biggest search fleet in galactic history right now, Marcus said. On the second day, he won't stop looking until he finds you. On the third day, rescued ships finally arrived. Zerdiel's father had indeed sent half the royal fleet to search for her. When they pulled the escape pod aboard the rescue ship, she was safe but heartbroken. To leave Marcus behind, the royal protocols were clear. Marcus was taken to a different ship for debriefing, while she was rushed back to their home world for medical treatment. In all the chaos of political meetings and security investigations, they never had a chance to say goodbye properly. She had asked about him many times over the years, but her advisors always gave vague answers. He returned to Earth safely, Your Highness. That's all we know. Now, sitting at this grand wedding 20 years later, Princess Zerdiel finally understood what had happened to her childhood hero. Marcus Chen had become one of Earth's most important diplomats, respected throughout the galaxy for his wisdom and kindness. The same qualities that had saved her life had helped him build a career, bringing different species together in peace. The wedding music began to play, but Zerdiel's heart was singing a different song, the lullaby Marcus had hummed, to keep her safe in the darkness of space all those years ago. Part 3. The human touch. The wedding ceremony was beautiful beyond words. Princess Lina and Prince Corvex exchanged vows that had been written by poets from both their worlds, promising to build bridges where once there had been walls. When they kissed, 1,000 different species cheered in their own unique ways. The aviarians sang in harmonies that made the air shimmer. The geologians hummed deep notes that vibrated through the floor. Even the energy beings from the plasma worlds flashed in celebration as the newly married couple walked down the aisle together. Princess Zerdiel felt tears forming in her crystal blue eyes. Love had indeed conquered the longest war in galactic history. But her mind kept drifting to the human delegation, where Marcus Chen stood applauding with genuine joy on his face. The reception began immediately after the ceremony. The great hall transformed as the wedding altar folded away and elegant tables rose. From the floor, Floating serving platforms glided between the guests, offering delicacies from hundreds of worlds. The smell of roasted Centauri vegetables mixed with sweet Andromedan fruits and spicy Martian seasonings, Zerdiel moved through the crowd, fulfilling her diplomatic duties. She congratulated the bride's parents from the Solar Federation. She discussed mining agreements with the Void Empire's trade minister. She listened politely as the insectoid queen buzzed about new transportation routes through their space. But through it all, she kept stealing glances at Marcus. He seemed to be everywhere, moving easily between different groups of aliens. She watched him bow respectfully to an elderly aviarian matriarch, then turn and share a joke with some young geologian engineers. His natural warmth seemed to put everyone at ease. "Your Highness." Ambassador Velter appeared at her side, holding a glass of sparkling crystalline wine. The Andromedan delegation wants to discuss the new research station, and after that, the Centauri Council wishes to speak with you about a Velter. Zerdiel interrupted gently. "I need a few minutes to myself. Please handle the meetings for now." Her advisor looked surprised but nodded. "Of course, Your Highness." "Shall I say you're feeling unwell?" "No, just say I'm reconnecting with an old friend." Before Velter could ask questions, Zerdiel walked away. Her heart pounded as she made her way across the hall toward the human delegation. Several aliens turned to watch her pass, curious about where the crystalline princess was going with such determination. Marcus was standing near a fountain that sprayed liquid light in rainbow patterns. He was speaking with Dr. Sarakim, Earth's chief xenobiologist, when he noticed someone approaching. He turned, and their eyes met for the first time in 20 years. For a moment, neither of them moved. Marcus's face went through a series of expressions: surprise, recognition, and then pure joy. "Princess Zerdiel," he said softly. "Hello." "Marcus," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Kim looked between them with interest. "Do you two know each other?" "We're old friends," Marcus said, never taking his eyes off Zerdiel. "Very old friends. I'll leave you to catch up," Dr. Kim said with a knowing smile, and diplomatically moved away. They stood facing each other, both unsure how to begin. Finally, Marcus spoke. "You look incredible, every inch the princess you were always meant to be." Zerdiel felt her royal composure beginning to crack. "You look older," she said, then immediately felt embarrassed. "I mean," Marcus laughed, the same warm laugh she remembered. "I'm older. 20 years will do that to a person. But you still have the same curious eyes. The same way of looking at the world, like you want to understand everything about it. I never stopped wondering what happened to you," she admitted, "after the rescue. Everything happened so fast. By the time I could ask about you, you had already gone back to Earth. The royal protocols." Marcus nodded. "I understood. You had a life to return to, and I was just a junior engineer who happened to be in the right place at the right time." "Just a junior engineer?" Zerdiel's eyes flashed. "Marcus, you saved my life. You risked everything for someone you barely knew." "I knew you well enough," he said quietly. 3 days in an escape pod teaches you a lot about a person. I knew you were brave and kind and smart. I knew you deserved to go home to your family." Around them, other guests were beginning to notice their conversation. Whispers spread through the crowd as beings from different species watched the crystalline princess speaking intimately with a human diplomat. "What have you been doing all these years?" Zerdiel asked. Marcus's face lit up with enthusiasm. "Well, after our adventure, I decided I wanted to learn more about different alien cultures. I went back to school and studied xenopsychology and interspecies communication. Then I joined Earth's diplomatic course, xenopsychology." She repeated, impressed. "That's a difficult field." "It started because I wanted to understand your people better," Marcus admitted. "I spent years studying crystalline culture, learning your language, reading your literature. I wanted to understand what made you who you are." Zerdiel felt her breath catch. "You study my people?" "For my doctoral thesis, actually, I wrote about the role of music in crystalline emotional expression. Do you remember those songs I sang to you in the escape pod?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. "When I researched your culture, I learned that crystalline people express their deepest emotions through harmonic vibrations. I realized that when I sang to you, I was accidentally speaking to you in your own emotional language. That's why the songs felt so comforting, she whispered. You were singing to my soul without even knowing it, Marcus smiled. Humans have this ability to connect with other species on an emotional level. Even when we don't fully understand the science behind it, it's become my specialty, helping different races understand each other. Is that why you're here? As a cultural expert, I'm Earth's chief cultural liaison now, he said with a touch of pride. My job is to help prevent misunderstandings between species, to build bridges where others see only differences. Ambassador Thorn appeared beside them, his eyes twinkling with curiosity. Marcus, I see you've met Princess Zerathiel. How wonderful. Actually, Marcus said, glancing at Zerathiel with a warm smile. We're old friends, very old friends. The word spread quickly through the reception. Delegates from dozens of species began drifting closer, fascinated by the obvious connection between the crystalline princess and the human diplomat. In a galaxy where most species maintain formal distances, such genuine warmth was rare and precious. As the evening continued, Zerathiel felt like she was seeing Marcus with new eyes, not just as the brave young man who had saved her, but as someone who had built his entire career on the kindness and understanding he had shown her. 20 years ago, the reception was in full swing when Marcus first noticed something was wrong. He was talking with Princess Zerathiel near the fountain, when his trained eyes caught subtle movements in the crowd. That didn't feel right. As Earth's chief cultural liaison, he had spent years learning to read the body language of dozens of different species. Right now, several beings scattered throughout the hall were moving in ways that made his instincts tingle. With warning, Marcus, Zerathiel noticed his sudden change in attention. What is it? I'm not sure yet, he said quietly, his eyes scanning the crowd. But something feels off. 3 aviarian delegates near the main entrance kept checking their wrist. Communicators every few seconds, normal behavior for busy diplomats. Except they were doing it in perfect sync, like they were waiting for the same signal. A group of geologian representatives by the gift table had positioned themselves to block the security camera's view of that section, and humans from a mining corporation were standing too close to the power junction boxes that controlled the hall's lighting. Marcus had learned to trust these feelings. During his years as a cultural expert, he had prevented dozens of diplomatic incidents by noticing when people's behavior didn't match their words. Humans had an unusual gift for reading emotions across species lines, something that made them valuable as peacekeepers and mediators. Princess, he said softly, I think we might have a problem. Before Zerathiel could respond, Marcus was already moving. He walked casually toward Ambassador Thorn, who was chatting with the Centauri trade delegation. Ambassador, Marcus said with a smile, could I speak with you privately for a moment? Thorn excused himself and followed Marcus to a quiet corner. What's wrong, Marcus? You look concerned, sir. I think there might be hostile agents in the crowd. I've spotted at least 7 individuals whose behavior patterns suggest they're coordinating for some kind of action. Ambassador Thorn's expression became serious immediately. Are you certain? Not completely, but my instincts are usually right about these things. We should alert security quietly, without causing panic. While Marcus spoke with the ambassador, Zerathiel had been watching the same individuals he had noticed. Her royal training had taught her to observe people carefully, and now she saw what Marcus had seen. The synchronized movements, the nervous glances, the way certain guests were slowly surrounding key areas of the hall. She approached a crystal communications panel built into the nearest wall and activated it with her biosignature. Within seconds, she was connected to the station's security chief, Chief Commander Voss. She said in the formal tone of crystalline royalty, "This is Princess Zerathiel. I believe we may have unwelcome guests at the reception. Please increase security monitoring immediately, but do not take visible action yet. Understood. Your Highness, we'll scan all guests again and monitor for suspicious behavior." As Zerathiel finished her call, she saw Marcus returning with Ambassador Thorne and Dr. Kim. They were moving through the crowd, speaking quietly with other human delegates and a few trusted alien representatives. Princess, Dr. Kim approached her. Marcus thinks we might have trouble. Can you identify your people's security team without alerting anyone else? Zeradil nodded and pointed subtly towards several elegantly dressed crystalline individuals scattered around the hall. They're disguised as my cultural advisors, but they're actually my personal guards. Marcus was studying the suspicious individuals more carefully now. The timing is too perfect. He muttered, they're waiting for something specific, probably. The toast ceremony, when everyone will be distracted and looking toward the center of the hall. The toast is scheduled to begin in 10 minutes, Zeradil confirmed. That's when they'll strike, Marcus said with certainty. Whatever they're planning, it's designed to cause maximum chaos during the most symbolic moment of the peace treaty. Ambassador Thorne activated his own communicator, security control. This is Ambassador Thorne. We have a code yellow situation. Repeat, code yellow. Increase monitoring but maintain normal appearance, as if responding to some invisible signal. The suspicious individuals began moving more purposefully. The Aviarian delegates started walking toward the main stage where the bride and groom would give their unity toast. The geologians rolled closer to the gift table where many precious peace offerings from different worlds were displayed. The two humans near the power controls opened their tool cases. Now I'm sure, Marcus said grimly, they're going to try to disrupt the toast ceremony. If they succeed in destroying this celebration, it could restart the war between the Solar Federation and the Void Empire. Princess Zeradil felt anger rising in her crystal heart. This wedding represented hope. For the entire galaxy, countless lives had been lost in the century-long war. And finally there was a chance for lasting peace. She would not let anyone destroy that hope. Marcus, she said, her voice filled with determination. What do? We stop them, he replied simply. But we need to be smart about it. If we move too fast or too obviously, they might panic and activate whatever device they have early. Working together, they began a careful dance through the crowd. Marcus used his cultural knowledge to approach each suspicious group naturally. He would start casual conversations, using his understanding of their species psychology to delay them and keep them talking. Meanwhile, Zeradil used her royal authority to discreetly redirect other guests away from potentially dangerous areas. Honored Aviarian delegates, Marcus said with a respectful bow as he approached the three bird-like beings near the stage. I wanted to thank you for your beautiful singing during the ceremony. Could you tell me about the traditional meaning of those harmonies? The Aviarians looked frustrated, but couldn't ignore a direct cultural question from Earth's chief cultural liaison without appearing rude. As they explained their music traditions, Marcus kept them engaged while signaling security with subtle hand gestures. At the same time, Zeradil approached the geologian group. Wise stone speakers, she said in the formal greeting of their species, my father would be honored to hear your thoughts on the mineral gifts presented today. The geologians had no choice but to respond to a crystalline princess with proper respect. As they began discussing the symbolic meaning of various crystals and metals, Zeradil positioned herself between them and the gift table. Across the hall, security teams were quietly moving into position. The station's sensors had detected unusual energy readings from several locations, confirming Marcus's suspicions. Then the signal came, a brief flash of light from someone's communication device. All the hostile agents began moving at once toward their targets. Now, Marcus shouted, abandoning all pretense of diplomacy. The hall erupted into controlled chaos as security teams moved to intercept the attackers while Marcus and Zeradil worked together to protect the wedding guests and preserve the peace that so many had died to achieve. Part 5. A new alliance. The next few minutes felt like ours, as security teams moved swiftly through the crowd. Marcus and Princess Zeradil worked together like they had trained for this moment their entire lives, while security handled the attackers with weapons. They focused on protecting the innocent guests and keeping the peace ceremony alive. The main stage. Marcus called out as he saw one of the hostile aviarians pulling out a small device near where the bride and groom were preparing for their unity toast. They're going for the symbolic moment. Zerathiel moved faster than anyone expected a princess could move. Her crystalline form flowed through the crowd like liquid light as she reached the aviarian just as he activated his disruption device. Instead of tackling him, she did something that surprised everyone. She began to sing. The song that came from her crystal throat was ancient, older than the war between the star nations. It was a crystalline harmony of peace and unity, taught to royal children for 1,000 generations. The pure, beautiful sound cut through the chaos like starlight through darkness. The effect was immediate and amazing. The aviarian's device, designed to create sonic disruption, began to malfunction as Zerathiel's song created counter-harmonics that neutralized its power. Other guests, even in the middle of the crisis, stopped to listen to the princess's voice. Slowly, other beings began to join her song, aviarians adding their own harmonies, geologians humming deep bass notes, even the energy beings flashing in rhythm. Meanwhile, Marcus had reached the power control stations where the two human attackers were trying to cut the lights and create panic. He approached them not with force, but with words. "Hey, I know you guys," he said calmly, recognizing them. From mining corporation files he had studied, "You're from the Asteroid Belt Mining Union. What's this really about? Someone paying you to disrupt the wedding?" The two men hesitated, surprised that someone knew who they were. "You don't understand," one of them said. "This peace treaty will ruin us. Our company is mining contracts in the war zones. If peace comes, we lose everything. And you think starting the war again will help your families?" Marcus asked gently. "How many miners have died in attacks on your operations? How many children have lost parents because of this conflict?" His words hit home. These weren't evil men. They were scared workers who thought they were protecting their livelihoods. Marcus's ability to understand and connect with people from any background was working even in this crisis. "There are other ways," Marcus continued. "The peace treaty includes reconstruction programs. Mining companies will be needed to rebuild what was destroyed. You can be part of building a better future instead of maintaining a terrible past." Security teams arrived and carefully arrested the would-be saboteurs, who surrendered without further resistance. Across the hall, the other hostile agents had also been stopped, their plans disrupted by the quick thinking of Marcus and Zerathiel working with station security. As the immediate danger passed, the wedding guests began to realize what had almost happened. A murmur of concern and then gratitude spread through the crowd. Prince Corvex and Princess Lina, the newly married couple, stood hand in hand on the stage, looking at Marcus and Zerathiel with deep appreciation. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced Prince Corvex in his deep voice, "it seems that love is not the only thing that can overcome hatred. Friendship and wisdom can do it too. We have just witnessed something remarkable. Not just the prevention of an attack, but a demonstration of how different species can work together when they truly understand each other." Princess Lina stepped forward, the quick thinking of Princess Zerathiel of the Crystalline Dominion and cultural liaison Marcus Chen of Earth has saved not just our wedding, but perhaps the peace itself. Their actions today show us what is possible when friendship crosses the boundaries between species. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Beings who had been strangers an hour ago were now talking excitedly about what they had witnessed. The story would spread across the galaxy, how Crystalline Princess and a human diplomat had worked together to protect the future of galactic peace. As the celebration continued and the Unity Toast finally took place, Marcus and Zerathiel found themselves standing together on a quiet balcony overlooking the stars. The crisis had brought back all the trust and teamwork they had shared as children, but now enhanced by their adult wisdom and experience. "Marcus," Zerathiel said softly, "I have something to ask you." "What is it?" he replied, still slightly amazed by everything that had happened. "My people have never had a human ambassador. We've always believed that other species couldn't truly understand our ways. But today, you showed me something different." She turned to face him fully. "You You stopped those attackers not with force, but with understanding. You knew exactly what to say to reach their hearts. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. That's what humans do best, I think. We see the person behind the problem. I want to make a formal request, Zerdil continued, her voice taking on the authority of her royal position. Would you consider becoming the first human cultural ambassador to the crystalline Dominion? The position would require you to work closely with my court, to help my people understand other species and to help other species understand us. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the stars. That would mean leaving Earth's diplomatic service. It would mean becoming something new, Zerdil said, a bridge between your people and mine, a living symbol of what we can accomplish when different species truly trust each other. What would your father say? The Emperor has never allowed non-crystalline beings in positions of authority. Zerdil smiled, and for a moment she looked exactly like the 8-year-old girl Marcus had protected in that escape pod. My father has spent 20 years hearing me tell stories about the brave human who saved his daughter. After today, after seeing what we can accomplish together, I think he'll be ready to embrace a new kind of diplomacy. Marcus thought about his childhood dreams of exploring the galaxy and helping different species understand each other. He thought about the scared little princess he had comforted with songs and the wise, strong woman she had become. He thought about the possibility of building something completely new, a relationship between species based not on treaties and trade agreements, but on genuine friendship and understanding. Yes, he said finally, I'll do it, as they shook hands in the human custom, then touched foreheads in the crystalline gesture of deep respect. Delegates from dozens of species watched from inside the hall. The galaxy was witnessing the birth of a new kind of alliance, one built not on political necessity, but on the unbreakable bond between two friends who had found each other again after 20 years. The wedding had celebrated the union of two former enemies, but Marcus and Zerdil had created something even more precious, proof that friendship, once given freely, could reshape the very future of galactic civilization. Outside the station, the stars shone a little brighter, as if the universe itself approved of what it had witnessed.